On to the first debate. With CDPR, or Project Red, remaking the original Witcher and taking a linear game and making it open world, I ask you to do the opposite. I want you to take an open world game and make it into a linear game. Pick a number 1 through 10 and scream it out.
4.
Dang it, I was literally thinking 4. I'll go 9.
Okay, Mike wins because my number was 7. Very
All right.
close. Very close call.
Okay.
All right,
No
Mike,
Price
would you
is
like
Right
to go
rules on that
first
one.
or second? And would you like to use your Uno reverse for the night?
I'll go second.
Okay. Cicero, go ahead.
Yes. All right. So I'm taking an open world game and I'm making that open world game linear.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to take the game Dead Island.
Okay. All right. You want to go, or you want Mike to give his answer and then come back to you?
Why don't Mike give his answer and then you can come back to me?
Okay.
Mike, what is your game of choice?
I think this is a game that a lot of us wished was a little bit more linear when it first came out, and that is Sea of Thieves.
All right, Cicero. Why?
All right. Well, why Dead Island?
Yes. Why? Did
So, yeah. So Dead Island is a really cool game, and one of the things that was great about Dead Island was that you could go to places on the island that clearly you were not ready to tackle, and attempt to tackle those things. And some people found that challenge invigorating. But I say that there is a story that's missing in the game of Dead Island, or there's a story that you miss in the game of Dead Island when you tackle the game in an open world format, and they'd have a better chance of telling that story if they made the game more linear.
Okay. Mike, Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, so Sea of Thieves, one of its strengths when it comes to it is, creating your own story, but there is a lot of things that people struggle with. Me personally, I struggle with creating my own story. So it would have been nice at the start of Sea of Thieves for it to be sort of a more of a linear focus. And they did find some success with that, with the Disney collaboration with the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. And so they did find some success with giving it a little bit more linear focus. And I think a swashbuckling pirate adventure in this sort of vein where you are able to, get with a crew and you're able to, travel the seas, do the boat stuff, do all the sails and stuff. When there's a hole in the boat, you fix it and stuff. All of that, just in a linear focused story. I think that one of the things that Sea of Thieves struggled with, especially at the beginning, was certainly content, but also a lack of focus. Like you had a bunch of missions that you had to go on and go do in order to get currency, in order to get better boats or whatever. And what a linear game would have done is it would have brought it to a good finite story, one that is challenging, one that you're not stopped by other people because of PvP, and just like a awesome pirate adventure that you can experience linearly. I think that in that case, I think I probably would have continued with Sea of Thieves if it was this long sort of like campaign pirate adventure.
Cicero.
Yeah, so I mean the wonder of or what you can make of Dead Island as a story-driven game is something that would make it a little bit more unique, and in the ways that like it could have been an action version of The Last of Us, right? In the same way that you wind up crafting weapons in The Last of Us to take out the freakers and the clickers and all of those things. You could have been doing similar types of things in Dead Island with a group of friends, and that's what could have made that game great. And if you make it more linear, you could ramp up the challenge, and you could have you and your friends really go through and have an amazing adventure. And that was something that was really kind of missing from that game. And it made the game a little bit more chaotic. And if they could have given it a little bit more focus, that would have made again the chance for a really compelling story. And that's something that was missing. Mike's idea of a not necessarily story driven but a more closed off version of Sea of Thieves sounds good in principle, but I think part of the magic of Sea of Thieves is it's a sea, right? And so you can go out and be the swashbuckler that you always wanted to be with a crew of people. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense to tell me I'm a swashbuckler, I'm a pirate, I can do whatever it is that I want to do, except I've got to do it on these rails, right? So, he talks about the Disney Pirates of the Caribbean collaboration. This sounds like Pirates of the Caribbean, which is a great ride, but there is never any danger or any sense of fear or anything. It's just a ride. You know that it'll begin and you know that it'll end, and you know the twists and turns, because you're on rails. And you don't want to be on rails as a pirate. You want to be able to explore as a pirate.
Mike, go ahead.
I mean, you are assuming that my game is going to be on rails. There are plenty of linear games that have big maps that you can also explore. It's not necessarily open world, but there's different levels. Different level designs can be big, not necessarily on rails. There's a difference between on rails and linear. And I want to go back to your original point. Like a linear Dead Island would not be unique. You already made my point there. You said that there is Last of Us. Even to a certain extent, there's Resident Evil. There are linear focused zombie games. When have we ever gotten a linear focused pirate game? I really can't think of one. And the only one that comes to mind is Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and that was completely open world as well. And so it would be awesome to have that tight linear focus, not on rails. There's going to be big level design that you are able to swashbuckle, as you said, and go through the level and just do your missions, do your tasks that you need to be doing, and have a good story focused, linear pirate game. We've never gotten that. That is what's not unique. We've never gotten a linear pirate game, at least in my memory. I could be wrong. So
Assassin's Creed is linear at first. As the more you open it up,
okay.
The more you open it up, the more.
This is going to be our last rebuttal.
Right. That was my rebuttal. My rebuttal was just a point of fact that Mike is wrong. But what he is right about is that yes, there have been games like Last of Us and Resident Evil, but like those games, right, that exist and have had the space to flourish and make their way from video game to other genres. Dead Island has the opportunity to do that as well, but where those games differ from Dead Island is the cooperative version of it and how it is more action oriented. It is not as much a horror game or a environmentally tense game as it is an adrenaline rush. And that's the difference between Dead Island and the games that you mentioned. And I think there is space for a linear type of game in that arena.
Okay, then I will just go ahead and play what is arguably a masterpiece in Left 4 Dead 2, and if I do want a different experience, then I'll play Back 4 Blood or the original Left 4 Dead. Those games already exist. There is 0 linear pirate games. At first, apparently, because that's what Assassin's Black Flag does that first, and then it opens up.
Okay. Mike got you on this one, Cicero.
right.
I feel like that final jab was pretty tough to recover from, even if you had time. And he did valiantly fight back against the open world on rails statement that you made. So I feel like Mike won this one. It's one for
All
Mike.
right.
Thank you. This is one of them that I'm gonna get because I don't even know what this next one's gonna be. So,
All right. Well, with simulator games coming out much more often and most being around about working specific jobs, it is your job to pitch me a new job simulator game. Lots of jobs. Focusing on a single job.
should have a job counter.
Which
Job.
would make a fun and unique game. So pitch me a new job simulator game. Mike, you get to choose if you'd like to start or finish on this. And if you'd like to use your Uno.
I'm gonna use my Uno reverse card.
Okay. Mike, would you like to start or go second on this one?
I'll go second, but
Okay.
but Uno'd.
Okay. Cicero, what
Yes.
is your job? Just
My
the
job, the job is Pizza Maker Simulator.
Okay, Mike, what is your job?
Construction worker.
Your Uno reverse activated, and now you have to fight for the other person's job.
That's what I knew exactly what it was, and I knew exactly what it was.
Mike,
Okay,
you have
all right.
Pizza Maker Simulator, and Cicero, you have Construction Worker Simulator. Okay, Cicero, go ahead.
Yeah, so the beauty of the construction worker is that there's so many different jobs that they can do, just like Power Wash Simulator, right? So you go into Power Wash Simulator, and the first thing you do is you're cleaning off a car, but then you go and you're cleaning off like a whole house, and you gotta, then you're doing a playground, just like that with the construction simulator. So you'll start out like, all right, well maybe we're putting up a wall in a house, we're doing that kind of demo, and then the next thing you're doing is like maybe a shopping mall. You're doing the construction on that. You're cutting the boards. You're putting the bricks together. You're building the frames. You're doing all of those things. The last stages, you're building a skyscraper, and you're building it level by level, going through and doing all of the jobs to make sure that the work is done completely right.
Mike, Pizza Maker.
So, I Uno reverse this, right? And now I'm gonna reverse my personality as well, because I'm gonna be Cicero, who was trying to pull some shenanigans and play to the heartstrings of the pizza maker himself in Justin, our judge, our adjudicator this evening. And maybe this will hurt me, maybe this won't, but I'm gonna play into that.
Okay.
Pizza Maker Simulator. It sounds awesome, actually. It does sound like a cool time to, get behind the counter at a Domino's, of course, and make the pizzas, make the pies for the customers that come to order. But one of the things that I'm going to clue our listeners into, and one of the things that I very well appreciate, the What the Fun family chat here, is that Justin sends us TikToks and videos and pictures of all of the fantastic creations that he creates at Domino's. And I think that in this Pizza Maker Simulator, you would be doing this position and you are able to do what Justin does, right? You are able to try out different foods, different combinations, different ways to make pizzas. And that's what the exciting thing about this is. It's not just you're making a pepperoni pizza. It's not just you're making a cheese pizza. It's also you're bringing in your own unique style and how you want to make your Domino's, how you want to make your, one of the famous pizza places in Madison area is Ian's Pizza, right? Or Milwaukee area, right? Like they have a bunch of different creations, and that's what this is about. You have What I think also is that development wise, this game is a little bit easier to make than a construction worker because obviously, as Cicero already pointed out, construction worker is doing odd jobs here and there. And certainly that can be developed, but you're having a succinct, sort of tight development cycle where you just have to create the ability to make pizzas, throughout your day at this simulator position. You're doing your own startup pizza place. It's going to be create your own stuff. And you're going to be able to really experiment with the kind of toppings and the kind of pizzas that you want to make.
All right. I want to come in here real quick and just let you guys know that publisher Big Cheese Studio did come out with a game called Cooking Pizza Simulator in the past. But also, WFK Games came out with Construction Worker Simulator. So both those are null. I'm going to continue the argument and keep it going to the fact that both of them did have versions already out. Cicero, go ahead.
So what I'll say is that the Pizza Maker Simulator on the surface sounds great, but
delicious, one might say.
Right, but you would like a good slice. It's a little thin. And so like there's no place to go from making the pizzas. So you've made some pizzas, you've changed up some styles, you've done some things, and then you see how people like it. And that's the game. There's no leveling up because unlike Justin's real life, you don't have friends that you're playing with or friends that you're working with to have that camaraderie to talk about why what you're doing is so awesome. So you lose that. You lose that portion of the game. With the construction game, what you have is lots of different types of jobs, right? So you can go from making 2x4s and cutting 2x4s to fit into the right spaces and hammering, but you're sawing and you're connecting things, you're welding things, you're putting things up, you're jackhammering. There's so many different things that you can do during this game that it gives the game a lot more life. Another thing that I don't want to speak for Justin, but he really loves Power Wash Simulator. And he talks about how relaxing it is to just kind of get lost in the game of being able to power wash. I don't know that I can get lost in a game that is my job. That's my real job. Right? Like, how do I get lost in reality, a simulation of what I actually do? What am I taking a break from? So, I don't know if Pizza Simulator is the right way to go. Construction simulation, it is. Hard hats enabled.
You're so funny because you're making an argument that only pizza makers are going to be trying to play Pizza Maker Simulator, when there's construction workers that might want to try their job simulated as well. You bring up Power Washing Simulator, right? And yeah, you are washing different things throughout that game, but the function and what you are doing is still repetitive. You are power washing, right? And so despite the repetitiveness of what you're washing things.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Despite the repetitiveness of making a pizza, you are still bringing in different creations and stuff like that, which is fun. But also, this game has a story, right? You are starting as a day one employee, right? And you are creating pizzas, you're making that, and eventually you get to be assistant manager. Eventually you get to be manager. Eventually you get to be owner, and you're running a restaurant. You're not just creating pizzas, you are also running the restaurant at the end of the day too, and that's what will also make it a simulator too in its own regard. And you talk about relaxation. You're gonna relax on a construction site. I mean, I wouldn't relax. And if you do relax, you might be in a lane where a car is driving by and you might get run over, if you relax too much.
Well, all right. So what I'll say first is your critique of Power Wash Simulator only further illustrates the fact that you didn't play Power Wash Simulator, because there are so many add-ons to the Power Washer. You're not just washing, you're cleaning, you're buffing, you're doing so many different things along with power washing. And as a result, it makes the comparison between Power Wash Simulator and Construction Simulator very more apt. But you wouldn't know that because you didn't play Power Wash Simulator. I don't want to hold it against you, but maybe the judge will. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So like, you have fundamentally changed your game, which is fine, but it goes from being a pizza making simulator to a pizza owner simulator at some point during the course of the game, which could be cool, but like, it's a very different type of game at that point.
You're also changing the function of your game as well.
How?
Because there's different types of constructions.
Exactly. But I'm a construction worker.
There's different types of pizza making. You could be an owner who makes pizzas. Like, come on now.
All right. You guys are going to get 2 sentences each back and forth.
Okay.
A build and a bust for both of you.
Okay.
Mike, go ahead.
Oh, I'm first? Okay.
Yeah.
No run.
Justin is a pizza maker. There you go. And
What a waste.
it's all right. I already lost this one anyway because I didn't know what Power Wash Simulator did, so it doesn't even matter.
That's the second sentence?
No, that was my response to what a waste.
All right, Cicero. 1 to build and 1 to bust.
All right, fine. Whatever.
Imagine the sense of accomplishment.
Don't even lie when you said, "Oh, Mike, you had me." I never had you on this one, and I know it.
Imagine your sense of accomplishment when you have completed the construction job simulators comparison of the Empire State Building. You're sitting at the top of it, and you're looking down at something that you had a hand in and building.
Objection. That was the longest sentence ever.
Mike,
okay.
It's Cicero's time.
Right.
I'll count that as both his sentences. I'll count that
There
as
you
both.
go.
You're kidding. Just
Right.
give him the win already. Let's move on.
So, Mike, I am the most unbiased here. So me being working at Domino's did not matter. When you stated that you were going to be a pizza manager making pizza, that would change the game, because in what way, if you want to keep it focused around pizzas? It's not restaurant owner. Cicero said it best. Cicero, construction workers have many different tasks. You win.
Thank you.
All right. That's 1 each.
So do managers. I knew I lost that one. So
It had nothing to do with the Power Wash Simulator argument, by the way.
Right.
But thank you for defending it, Cicero.
No problem.
All right, on to the third one. The You'll never know. The Game Awards are on Thursday.
I know. I've been known.
All right, the Game Awards are on Thursday.
Yeah, that was a bad sentence. I understand.
And some games aren't listed as Game of the Year nominees. Which game should have been nominated, and why would it have won? Cicero, would you like to save your Uno reverse for the end, blind fight, or would you like to use it here?
I am going to save my Uno reverse for the end,
Okay.
because I'm going to go first and say the game is Tunic.
Oh, okay. Mike, what's your game?
Yeah, game that he didn't even finish. Oh, you're funny. Hang on. I mean, the reason he didn't use it is because He knew that is what I was picking. Vampire Survivors.
Okay. Cicero, go ahead. Why Tunic should have won Game of the Year?
Because it created a Zelda game. Like, man. So what's cool about Tunic is Zelda in 2022 in the same way that Zelda was Zelda in 1985 or 88 or whatever it was when it came out. No one knew the rules, but everyone knew how to play. And Tunic is the exact same way. It's the same genre. It is a Zelda-like or a Metroidvania, whatever you want to call it. But it does all of the same things, and the mechanics that they use are brilliant in the same way that Zelda was brilliant for its time. This is the way that you take a genre and respect the genre, but innovate on it in ways that make it great. Tunic was a fantastic game this year.
All right. Now, I do want to let you know, guys, before you continue, you are fighting against the other person's game for Game of the Year, right, and also the 6 nominees that are actually there. So God of War, Ragnarok, right, Elden Ring, Plague Tale. Why is yours better than those as well? Sean or Mike, go ahead.
Okay. I wish you didn't say that, because now I think both of us are at a disadvantage about arguing against Elden Ring and God of War.
Even disadvantage, though.
I guess. So, first of all, Cicero never beat Tunic. He does not know what truly makes that game special, at least to its fullest extent. And so I really don't know if he is the best person to argue for Tunic being Game of the Year, especially over God of War and Elden Ring, and all the others that won't even be considered, even though they're on the list. I can almost guarantee it. Anyway, I digress.
Too late.
Vampire Survivors, what is key about Vampire Survivors is, first and foremost, it's just popularity, and it's word to mouth, and it's just excitement around the game. There are social media posts on the daily talking about different builds that people have created, talking about different moments that they have had. I don't think that there has been a game outside of Elden Ring as socially big as Vampire Survivors. I think Elden Ring probably scratches that itch more, but Vampire Survivors really has hit the cultural zeitgeist, in a really, really big way. But also, the game is masterfully created. It is 2D pixel art that is really eye-popping. It's awesome. It's really cool to look at. But also, it is so simple in its design. You play with one stick. That's all you have to play with. You play with the left joystick, and it's literally just movement, and your character is in like an RTS sort of way, always attacking on a timer. But what is really cool about it is that they've created a system that adds different elements to this. How do you want to build your character? Do you want to build him to be a tank that could take a lot of damage? Or do you want to be light on your feet, have a lot of movement, but not necessarily a lot of armor? Or do you want to just be a complete powerhouse? Like the variety that you have in Vampire Survivors makes it a game that you continually want to go back to. And I think that is what makes things Game of the Year worthy. It is a game that you want to pick up again and again, and that is all that you're thinking about. And that's what Vampire Survivors does. Now, if Pokemon did not come out, Vampire Survivors is what my mind would be on right now. And honestly, there's still a part of my brain that's like focused on Vampire Survivors. I just want to get back to the game, continue building my character in a way that I want to see what type of builds work. I want to see what type of structure in my just in my overall stats work, not necessarily my weapons. I think that Vampire Survivors needed to be on that list. To be fair, I think Tunic or Vampire Survivors should have been on that list to represent a movement in the gaming industry where the Game of the Year nominee is not just AAA open world stuff. Like Tunic and Vampire Survivors deserve to be on that list. Vampire Survivors more so.
That's right.
Yeah, Mike said a lot of stuff. I agree with a lot of the things that he had to say. The one thing that I will say again, going back in defense of Tunic over Vampire Survivors and the 6 nominees, is that while Vampire Survivors does have the word of mouth, right? Like that it really has been growing as from this grassroots movement of word of mouth and recommendations from lots of people. That's great. In the same way that, or in a different way, Elden Ring has been part of that zeitgeist where people have been sharing their emergent stories and talking about how addictive the game is and how they've really embraced the genre in a way that they never had before. All of those things are great. I don't know that anyone could have expected Tunic. And that is the thing that I think makes it remarkable, and that is the thing that I think makes it honestly a crime that it's not on the list for Game of the Year, and is part of my argument for why it should be Game of the Year, right? Because they made a modern day Zelda in 2022 that feels like Zelda from 1988. Right? They made a game that made someone feel that same level of not necessarily wonder, right? But also I guess there is a part of it that is like a Souls-like, right? It is kind of like Elden Ring, right? Where when you do die, you have to go back and get, you can get your stuff and you kind of learn how to play via trial and error, along with catching the different pieces of the manual as you're going around through the world. But like, that's what Zelda was when it first came out, and like I don't think that can be understated how difficult it is to recreate like that at a basic level without feeling like you're just completely stealing from the adventure genre, right? That Zelda effectively created. And yeah, Tunic is remarkable in that way. And really just it lends heavily from those things, but at no point would somebody just say, "Oh, it's just Zelda now," as a pejorative or something to that effect. It is just a remarkable feat, and the fact that it came from a small studio, just like Mike said, makes it even more deserving to be up on this list amongst these titans.
All right, you're gonna get 2 sentences, Mike. Only to bash.
Only to bash.
You only bash Tunic. And Cicero will get the 2 to bash Vampire. Go ahead.
Okay.
No run-ons. Both of you.
2 sentences. Got it, boss. Despite Tunic, I am agreeing with Cicero that despite Tunic having the remarkable, Zelda sort of feel to it, there have been more games that have been akin to that same style. I think of my Game of the Year last year in Death's Door that also has a similar vein, and there's nothing else like Vampire Survivors.
Okay.
Vampire Survivors is too out there for people to get. As a result, I don't think even with the amount of people saying to play it, enough people will play it for it to get the type of recognition that it needs to win Game of the Year.
All right. The votes are in. It's anonymous.
It's anonymous.
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 Unanimous.
No.
No, it's anonymous.
It's synonymous.
Mike, I think this comes back to the first thing you said. You were talking about accessibility and how easy it is to pick up and play with one joystick. I think that's what threw it over for you. Accessibility is big on it. Yes, there are a lot of Zelda likes. Tunic is a unique one and one of a kind for sure, but nothing is like Vampire Survivors. CW, here he is again. Right. All right, that's one for Mike again. That's a score of 2-1. Cicero, you're trailing here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to ask you right away. Do you want to use your your Uno reverse?
We got to.
You don't have to if you don't want to. But if you want to, you can.
Oh, no, we got to.
I'd like you to choose movie or game.
I'm going to choose game.
All right. The discussion is about...
So that means he has movie, right?
What?
You got to let the host host.
Okay. I'm just confused about this Uno reverse card.
Let the host tell you.
You chose game. Right. Okay. The debate topic is about Dr. Jones and Indiana Jones coming out in the near future. Which will be better? The movie or the game? And Cicero, since you did Uno reverse, you have the movie. Mike, you have the game. Cicero, go ahead.
Yeah, the movie is going to be better because Crystal Skull was such a turd. They will make sure that this one will kick a lot of rocks.
Mike, go ahead. There's no quick attack here. You can take as long as you want to talk about how turdy the Crystal Skull was.
Right.
I do not approve, though.
So, that it's not that it is a turd.
No,
you don't approve that it.
I enjoyed the movie. I was one of the
okay, all right, still a turd. But so one of the things that I believe will set this argument apart is actually an interview that I listened to the other day with I forget the YouTuber's name, but he got the chance to interview Todd Howard. And Todd Howard, as listeners might know, is the
Bethesda.
He's one of the Bethesda figureheads, I believe. Not the CEO, but one of the top dog as far as producer, right? He's directed, Fallout 4, all the Skyrims, all the Skyrims, all the Elder Scrolls, I meant. But anyway, he is also the executive producer of the new Indiana Jones game coming from Machine Games, makers of the Wolfenstein series, I believe. And the reason that I believe that the game is going to be far superior than the movie is because Todd Howard was talking about the vision that he had for an Indiana Jones game 10 years ago. And that vision he pitched to Lucasfilm, and they denied him. That same vision he pitched to Disney, and they approved it. And the reason why I bring that up is because when you have an intellectual and creative mind such as Todd Howard, who has had this vision for an Indiana Jones game for this long, I don't think there's going to be an issue with execution. I really think that he's going to galvanize the troops, as Stephen A. Smith would say from First Take. He's going to galvanize the people at Machine Games and create an Indiana Jones game that is going to be memorable, and also one that is going to set itself apart from its counterparts in like Uncharted or Tomb Raider. I really do think that this is going to be leagues above those. Maybe not Uncharted 4. I've never played Uncharted 4, so Uncharted 4 I know, and Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, two of my favorite games of all time. But I really do believe that with the IP that Indiana Jones is, I think this game is ripe for success, and Todd Howard and the team at Machine Games are going to execute it so well that I think that it has just a better foundation than the movie.
Cicero.
Man, I don't know how the game could have a better foundation than the movie. The game has no DNA, right? Like, it has no legacy. Whereas the movie franchise is a franchise where they've had 3 phenomenal movies and 1 movie that was not phenomenal, but was a story that was moving on, and they're going to take that story and they're going to take the parts that worked, the parts that they tried to make work that didn't really work quite as well as they wanted to. They're going to refine those. They're going to put so much money into effects. We're going to be able to do all of the things that we need to do, pass all of the torches that we need for Indy to pass it on to Mutt, or, Mutt becomes Indianapolis Jones. Who knows what it's going to be? But what I do know is that they are going to go out there and they're going to put together a film that is not a turd, because that is the mandate. The mandate is to go out there and make a movie that people want to go and see more than once. If Harrison Ford is, listen, I love Harrison Ford. He ain't got a lot of time left to do action movies. Dude's 98 years old, right? He ain't got a lot of time to do action movies. So if we're going to do an action movie with Harrison Ford, we better make sure that action movie is phenomenal and that people are going to want to go and see it multiple times in the theater, because it was just that good. And that's what this latest Indiana Jones movie not only will be, but has to be.
All right. Just a fact check. He is 80. Don't freak out, fans. And he was born in Chicago, Illinois. Yes. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that that's what separates the game from the movie, is that the game doesn't have any expectations. I think Todd Howard can go into the game, and the team at Machine Games can go into the game and have the creative flow that is needed to build such a momentous game, right? Whereas the movie, it has we have to follow up Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a movie that you have called a turd twice. It has to live up to, is Harrison Ford going to be a good Indiana Jones? Like, all the rumors that he was going to be replaced or he was going to be recast and stuff like that. Like, I think there is more at stake for the movie. And one of the things that Disney does have a problem with is that they're going to be trying to set this Indiana Jones 5 up for the next movie, for the next sequel, for a next spin-off. And whereas Machine Games and Todd Howard, they're just going in with one succinct plan. Maybe that does spark a franchise, but they're going to create a concise, tight story, whether it's open world, whether it's open zone, linear, whatever. I think that the game just has more going for it, and a creative vision that has gone 10 years plus at this point, that I think it's going to be overall a better story, a better experience than the movie.
All right. I'm gonna give you guys one more rebuttal back
Okay.
and forth. Use it as you will. No sentence
Okay.
restriction.
All right. Good. Mike keeps talking about this 10-year recycle as if it's a good thing. Lucasfilm heard the pitch, and they were like, no thanks, right? And then you're saying the guy took the same pitch 10 years later, and somebody's like, oh, okay, yeah. So that he has an idea that's 10 years old, and so now by the time we actually get to play it, that idea will be 15 years old. Now, I'm not saying, Tyler Howard's a great dude. He's very talented, but I don't know. If I had a story from 15 years ago that I wanted to tell today, there are 15 years of innovations that have happened in between that I would have to ignore to just be able to say this was my vision and it is still my vision. And I don't know if that's necessarily a winning vision that ignores any of the innovations that have come from your industry in between when you had this idea versus today. And that's something that I'd worry about, and I don't know if I were you that I'd necessarily be using that as a plus. Todd Howard's a plus, but I don't know if his idea is a plus. However, what I do know is that the people that made the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones franchise as a whole a success, a global phenomenon, for the most part, are largely still involved and are better at their crafts today than they ever have been, and have better tools at their disposal, and they know how to use them in ways that they've never been able to use before, and they will have the budget to do all of the things for this particular film, and the film will do incredibly well. I venture to say that the Indiana Jones film will make more money than the Indiana Jones video game. And that is a way that you measure success, right? How much money did it make?
All right, go ahead.
I also don't think that's a fair comparison because movie is a lot easier and a little bit more accessible for most people. But I'll ignore that. In fact, Cicero, I think that
I will
you've
also be ignoring that. So
and Cicero, I think you've only bolstered my argument. Todd Howard has gone on record recently as to talk about Starfield and how he had a vision for Starfield and he could not get that vision done because of the technology.
Right.
And he had 10 years of this vision of an Indiana Jones game, and the technology that has come now has only potential, has given the game even more potential. You mean to, and you're talking about story here, you're talking about vision, right? You mean to tell me that a story from 10 years ago can't be impactful in 2024, 2025 when that game comes out? Like, I think that's completely wrong. Lord of the Rings came out God knows when, and it is still an impactful story. So I think story-wise, you're wrong. And just technology-wise, like, you have he pitched this new game. Lucasfilm just denied it at the time. They just weren't in a place to green light an Indiana Jones game. And here we now have a greenlit, a greenlit game that is going to be able to execute all the vision that he had. And I believe that the vision that he started off with is probably just as compelling now as it was back then.
all right. This is a tough one. Both of you had very, very good arguments for your own cause. I think I think I got to give it to Cicero. I think the coming back from a terrible movie is more likely because they know where they've been. I think without the money argument, because that's unfair. I think that the movie is going to do better. I think it is. And Harrison Ford, if you look at his docket right now, he's got 2 Marvel films in the near future.
Right.
He's Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross in
Yes,
2
he is.
different Marvel movies. So he's
Thunderbolt
still got
Ross,
action.
he's going to be the Red Hulk.
Yeah, he's still got action under his belt. So let's get it. All right, that ties it up. So that leads us into our Metacritic board for the evening.
Go.
This is a crazy one, guys. This is going to be a pirate game, slightly open world.
Oh.
I would dare say linear, Mike. Pirate game of the past. Now, if you're not familiar, fans or viewers or listeners, the Metacritic score is done like The Price is Right. So they are going to give me a number. Whoever is closest to that number is going to win, regardless over or under. Unless both of them are under, then it's closest. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we get you.
yeah. So this is the game for the PSP.
Oh, okay. It's just one game. Okay.
Yep. Well, it's
count.
on multiple platforms.
Right, but it's one game. It's not a franchise.
It's not a crazy franchise. No.
Okay.
You don't need your calculator today. This is Sid Meier's Pirates for the PSP. Out of 100. Cicero, would you like to go first?
Sure. Mike, let me know when you've got a
I'm ready.
number in your head. You are ready. I am ready. I am going to say Sid Meier's Pirates on the PSP has a Metacritic score of 79.
Mike.
I literally chose 80, so I did choose 80 though in my mind.
Dang. Well, that's crazy because the correct score is 82. Mike.
What?
With a win at 82, 2 off from the number.
Good.
Mike, anything to
The
say
me-
to your fans?
Yeah, the Metacritic don't lie. I won that gaming argument, and that's that. I won that Indiana
All right,
Jones
Ron
argument
Artest.
in my mind.
Yeah.
The Metacritic don't lie.
Right.
All right.
Metacritic world peace.
The ball don't lie, the Metacritic don't lie.
Metacritic world peace.
All right.
That is
GG's, Cicero.
GG's.